Welcome back to another episode of Planet Hunters Coffee Chat. I'm your host, Cassie Perlongo, and of course, joining me as always is my partner in crime, Nora Eisner. Good to see you, Nora.
Good to see you, Cassie.
So we're doing, as we have been doing before, we're doing kind of something just a little bit fun, because science is fun, guys. We need to remember it's okay. Yes, science is intense. We love to do the stuff where it's, we're, going through, I've still got reports on my mind right now, where it's like a lot of information thrown at you, but sometimes it's good. Take a breath. It's good to have fun. So we're doing like a Valentine's Day episode. Let me do like a star wipe going across. No, I'm just kidding. So it's good to have you. And as part of that, what are we doing today for Valentine's Day, Nora? What are we doing that's fun?
So this is going to sound so cheesy, but we're going to look at stars that are in binaries because they come in pairs and it's Valentine's.
Love it. Love it.
So we are going to look at binary stars. We're not going to do it just by ourselves because there are people who know a lot more about stars than I do. So I'm going to tell Cole that he can come out of the corner that I told him to stand in and ask him to come on to help us look at stars and explain.
Cole. Cole, yay!
Hi.
The star expert and the exoplanet expert. We love it. We love to see you guys together. And this is perfect. It's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, or coming close to it. So we love it. We love to see
Valentine's Day.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, cool. So let's get going. Do you want to share your screen, Nora?
Yes.
Light curve of the week. All right. Massive star in a binary.
Ooh, okay. This is a fun one. And as you said, Cassie, science is fun.
Science is fun.
Science is fun. And I have to remind myself of that occasionally.
We can get too intense sometimes with things, right? Where we're only looking at it for it gets too intense.
I spend a lot of my time flicking through light curves and getting really excited about random light curves and then not knowing how to explain them and then shout Cole and he has to explain it. So we're kind of, and that's really fun. I love doing that. So that's kind of what the theme we're going for today.
So
I love it.
We also have to come up with a new verb, because back in the days of the Kepler space mission, which was a predecessor to TESS, something that we would flick through light curves and try to find the interesting ones, and we would call this keppling.
Keppling?
Keppling. Yeah, it's just like, what are you doing today? Oh, I'm keppling.
Oh, I love it. So you're thinking up your own verbs for things on how to do it. I love it. Keppling.
Yeah. So we could be tessing, but
that sounds like testing.
Sounds like testing, and we all know that testing is not fun.
Come back to me on that. I'll have to think of something with it. So this is a massive star and a binary. You found this, and what is happening here?
Well, so there's something, before we knew this was a massive star in a binary, we could already tell that something really fun was happening with the, so you see how there's quite this interesting, almost M-shaped thing happening there. And we see two very, very noticeable eclipses, one that's really deep and then one that's higher up and a little shallow. So just from this alone, you can already tell that one of the stars is a lot hotter than the other, like thousands and thousands of degrees hotter. And the way that I could tell that is because this is showing something known as the reflection effect. So,
ooh, all right. So you're gonna have to explain that one. I don't know that one.
So when you have two stars that are close to one another, they shine light on one another. And normally, if they're about the same temperature, when one star shines light onto the other one, it can handle the amount of light that's coming towards it. It's just like, oh, thanks, buddy.
Right.
Now, so when you have a star that's really hot next to a star that's not as hot, that's a little cooler,
right?
All of a sudden, there's a lot more light coming onto it, and it can't process that. And then so it literally reflects the light back. And this is known as the reflection effect.
Oh, okay.
And that's why, so you have the really hot star heating up the cool star. And then so you have this one really hot spot on the surface of a star, and it's reflective, quote unquote.
We should clarify that hotter means brighter.
Hotter also means brighter.
Yeah. So
okay.
That might be easier to visualize than hot and cold.
Yeah. So the bright star and the not so bright star. And in this case, you can see that there's quite a big reflection because the distance that's traveled by that increase going up is quite a lot, right? So you just see it really rises. There's a little bit of reflection effect in other stars, but in this one, you have one that's a really bright star, and then its partner star is a little less bright.
Mm-hmm. Is this one that you would want to get more information about, that you would want to learn more about, or is this something that's quite common that you see?
Well, so for this to happen, the stars have to be quite different brightnesses, and they have to be pretty close to one another. So that's already interesting in and of itself. But with this one in particular, I've already asked Nora here to send me the tick ID. And the thing that I
Mm-hmm.
find really interesting about this is that when you start to see the dip coming in at the top, so you're starting to block the hot spot on the companion star.
Right.
And it seems to have this double effect. So normally all that you would see is just the eclipse at the peak of the reflection effect, because the point that's hottest is facing the star, the other star. And then
Mm-hmm.
then it gets eclipsed, and then we don't see that bright spot anymore. So it should just go away at the top, but we have, it goes down and then you have the eclipse. And that's really strange.
Mm.
So that one, there's something else that's around that star that is already starting to block the hotspot, and that's really interesting and something that I want to follow up on.
What could that be?
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I was just gonna say what don't know, but something interesting.
A spot?
Something interesting.
It could be a spot, but then you would have to have symmetric dark spots on the outside of a hot spot. Something else that it might be is like a disk around the cool star.
Mm.
Maybe, perhaps.
But that's something where Nora would say, that's interesting, and she would move on. But you would say, I need to look more into that.
So I would say I need to go and write a telescope proposal that's going to take me 3 weeks so that I can look at this for 2 hours in total.
Love it. Right. Love it. Dynamic duo. Okay. So massive star in a binary. We got the tick ID on it if you want to check it out. All right. So what is our next one that we're going to look at? Also, how many do we have today that we're looking at?
4.
Okay. Love it. Oh,
That's just for you, just for Valentine's Day.
Heartbeat, the heartbeat star. I love it.
So we have talked about heartbeat stars before, and you love them. So we thought we should have another one today, just for you. This one is a little bit different though, so I will let Cole explain why this one is interesting.
The last heartbeat star, if I remember correctly, we only saw one eclipse.
We did,
We,
yes.
we only saw one eclipse. And now in this heartbeat star, we actually see both eclipses.
Yeah, so we have the primary eclipse, which is the deep one. So last time we just saw those deeper eclipses, but here you can see just before this brightening thing. So if you remember, that's how you recognize a heartbeat star. It goes up and then it dips. So in this one, you see the secondary eclipse just before that dip.
Right.
Yeah. So Cassie, since these are your favorite type of star, and I've got to say,
They are.
great choice in
Thank you.
type of star. You know.
Thank you. She's lying to her favorite type of stars are the ones with planets around them.
I understand.
This is the dynamic duo going on right here.
I understand that you have to say that, but it's
Right.
okay. I know. I get it.
I would love to be a fly on the wall when you guys are having like dinner conversations. I swear that must be the most interesting thing ever.
It's super boring.
Yeah, I don't know if it is. But no, let's not hear. But yeah, they're really interesting.
Yeah. Tell me why this is interesting, Cole.
Well, so you've been doing a bit of planet stuff lately, and
Yes.
one of the things that I believe that you two have covered is the difference in the shapes of the eclipses, if I'm correct.
Yes.
The shapes of the transits. When it's a planet, it's a transit. So the difference in the shapes of the transits, right? And now if you see on this particular star, or in this binary system, these two stars, one eclipse is very straight, the first one, the small one, and the other eclipse has a bit of a U shape to it.
Yeah, that one right here, right? Yeah.
So the deep ones are U-shaped, whereas the smaller ones, they're very, very flat.
Right. So that tells us a little bit about the two kinds of stars that are in this binary system. One of them has to be a bit puffier, a bit bigger. It has a large atmosphere, and that's what gives it the U shape, because when something's crossing in front of it, it's because it has this, bit of an extended atmosphere, it's a little darker on the sides than it is in the center. So the amount of light decreases more slowly and then very rapidly. And this is known as limb darkening, and that's something that you two have covered.
Yes.
Yep.
Now,
Oh my
in
gosh.
the other one, the other eclipse that you can see there, it's just chunk, chunk, chunk. I don't have a joke for that. It's just small.
It's like little Hershey Kisses. No, I'm just kidding.
I think you need to review what Hershey Kisses look like, because they're not rectangular. Or maybe
they are not rectangular. I was looking at these peaks, basically. Those to me look like little Hershey Kisses.
Oh yeah, the peaks look
yeah.
like Hershey Kisses. Okay.
All right, sorry. I made a jump there.
We
My
don't
apologies.
have to question what you're eating.
Right. Always question. Well, that's adorable, and I love it. And again, I want to say the same thing. Is this something where, because I know that you see a lot of the heartbeat stars, but would you follow up on something like this because it seems a little bit different and you want to know what else is going on with it?
So all of these stars are actually really interesting. They come from a small subclass that we think is kind of rare. So out of when a previous mission, Kepler, the one that we did, that I used to do Kepling with, when that looked at its patch of sky for 4 years, it only found something like 200 of these kinds of stars out of 200,000.
Wow. Say these type of stars, we're talking about heartbeat
stars, the heartbeat kinds of systems. Now TESS has found a good number more, but TESS looks at a couple million of stars, something like that. So we are finding more, but they're still very rare. And then so at this point, each and every one of them is still really important for us to look at and understand.
That's so cool.
So yeah, so this one's really interesting because this one, we know that because of those shapes, just by looking at the shapes of those eclipses, one of them has a really big gradient between kind of the inside has a lot of limb darkening and the outside is much darker on the outside, but the other one is almost just the same brightness across. So we know that we have two very different stars in the system, which is another reason why the system is so interesting.
Awesome. Love it. All right. So we move on to number 3 now.
We do.
Ooh.
This is another binary, a spotted star binary. So we have talked about spots before, where you have spots on stars. The spots can be either brighter or darker, and they cause the light curve to look fun like this one. So what's happening with this one?
Well, so you have your normal binary signal that you have going on there, just the nice, beautifully deep eclipses, things that I would be happy to put into a binary modeling code and take a look at. And then you have these huge brightening excursions. And this is something that's known as the McConnell effect, where you have
McConnell?
McConnell.
Okay.
Yes. So that it refers to the phenomenon where the out of eclipse regions, where it gets a little bit brighter and then really brighter on the other side. When there aren't spots, these two parts of the eclipse, parts of the light curve, are the same height. When one of them is higher than the other, that's referred to as the McConnell effect. That is because of spots.
Wait, so can I clarify? So you mean here? So here you have the primary eclipse. Here you have the secondary eclipse. And this part between the primary and the secondary is flatter than between the secondary and the primary.
Yes, normally they should be, if they have like some shape to them, normally they should be the same height.
Okay.
But in this case, one is just like, I'm going up here, guys. Have fun.
Yeah. It's taken off. It's going to the high peak. Oh, I love it.
Did you ever play that game where you made the lines and the little sled ran down them and it made music?
No, but it sounds familiar. I feel like somebody I know has done that. Was that one of, anyway? No.
I wasted so much time in high school doing that, and I feel like this would be an amazing thing to send that little sled guy down.
I love it. It sounds so cool. All right, so we know that when you say spotted star in a binary, I mean, is it a large star?
So these stars are probably something both-ish the size of our sun.
Okay.
Something like that. The spots on it can take up anywhere from a few percent of the surface to 30-40%, depending on how spotty it is.
Right.
So you can have stars that are more spots than non-spots in some occasions.
Yeah.
So this one, you always have the spot
in the
same location. So the spot, the period at which that star is rotating, so the period at which the spot is coming round again, is almost the same as the orbital period of the binary.
So you have the star rotates once for every time that it spins around its companion.
Almost exactly, but
almost
not quite.
Exactly. And that's what you expect. You expect them to be pretty close, and that's what theory predicts. And we people like me are always happy when theory predicts that, because it means that we don't have to work anymore.
It's a dancing partner, basically. The two stars going around each other.
Exactly.
I love it.
But what's interesting is that, so we said it's nearly exactly the same period, because if this was observed in some sector, I don't know which one, but if we fast forward I think around 10 sectors, then this is exactly the same target, but you can see the spot is now in a different location. So the light curve of the same star, just some time later, looks quite different. So this is exactly the same target. So we have the same two stars going around each other. But instead of that increase in brightness now being after the secondary eclipse, it's around it. So you can see that spot is, you still have that brightening, but it's in a very different location.
Can you go back to the other one and then go back to this one again? Just, oh, okay. That's so cool. And then go back to the other one. Wow. All right.
So I would also like to take the time to point out that I was correct in my guess from before, and I'm not lying, because you can see here that the points outside of eclipse are the same height here.
Yeah. And it's just because it's looked at, sorry if I'm clarifying this too much, but it's just because it's looked at in a different, was it a different sector? Like, how did you determine that?
Yeah, so this was observed
Sector 14.
Sector 14 for 30 days. So you can see that it was observed in Sector 14. So if we then fast forward, this was observed, I think, Sector 40 or something. So just quite a long time later, you can see that because the periods aren't exactly the same of the rotation of the star, so every time the spot comes around, as the orbital period of the binaries, this location of the spot in respect to the transit or the eclipses has shifted. So we can just see them move across. So just a reminder that light curves change, and they don't always look the same.
Love it. Excellent. Anything else that you want to add, Cole? Looks like you might want to say something.
There are a couple other fun things happening here, but I think the funnest thing is definitely that spot has evolved. So spots change, and that's the really fun part about spots. It might have the spot itself has rotated out of view, and it also probably has actually the spot has evolved away. So spots grow, they grow and they shrink over time.
Wait, hold on. Has the spot not just migrated to the middle? Has it just disappeared?
It probably did both.
Oh, wow.
Because you see how bright that is. That's really bright. So that would have been a bright spot that somehow evolved away.
I assumed it shifted over, but it could have just evolved away completely. Yeah, you're completely right.
Right, because if it was dark, if it was like, you would expect to see it in another part of the eclipse. So I think that this has actually just evolved away over time. And that tells you.
No, sorry, go ahead, Cole.
I was going to say that tells you how the magnetic fields in these stars change.
They evolve and they go very quickly. So who has more fun in their science? Is it Nora or is it Cole?
I find planets, that's obviously more fun.
But stars are ever changing or ever evolving, as you said. So that's got to be really interesting, because you can almost watch it. I don't want to say in real time, but it seems like it happens more quickly, depending, maybe.
Yeah, you can. I mean, in real time when we get the data.
Yeah, exactly. What does real time mean? I love it. Like I said, I'd love to be a fly on the wall, because I can imagine like some of the conversations that you guys have after like a couple glasses of wine. You go really into the science, and this is why this planet. I love it. The dynamic duo.
When we have a glass of wine, we just start looking at memes and we laugh at them for hours. So
yeah,
that's the best way. Awesome. Were there any other? No, is this our fourth one? Was this the fourth one?
No, we have one more.
We have one more. Okay.
That because we had 2 panels for 1 star, which I feel like is cheating.
Yeah.
Close enough. All right. So uno mas. Whoa. Okay. So this one is a little bit all over the place. This is
so again,
Gamma
we have
Dor.
a A gamma door, yes. We had a question about one of these, so someone asked us to explain them. I say us. We're now passing that question on to Cole. Tell us what a gamma door is.
Okay.
In a binary.
A gamma door in a binary. I really like these kinds of stars, and I like them even more when they're in binary systems. You know, double the fun. So a gamma door type star, or gamma doratus variable star, is a pulsating star that's a little bit more massive, a little hotter, a little brighter than our sun. And these stars have these pulsations, so they ring like bells, and you can very clearly see the patterns with which they ring, right? And the thing that I really love about these stars is that by figuring out how frequently they ring, you can actually look at the interior of the star.
Can you clarify what you mean by ring? Is it like because of the magnetic field, or okay?
So you know how the Earth has earthquakes?
Yes.
Stars have starquakes.
Starquakes. Okay.
Stars,
that's so cool.
So they go like this, and every time they get bigger, they appear brighter, and every time they get a little bit smaller, they appear dimmer. So we can see these quakes by looking at the light that they emit.
Oh, that's so cool. I wonder
Right.
what the noise would be with that. What noise it would make.
So NASA has actually spent a good amount of time taking the frequencies at which stars ring and shifting them by, quite a large factor into the range that we can hear.
Yeah.
You can listen to stars on YouTube.
I'll have to find that and drop it in, because I do remember a article going out about that, and there was like, I think, an example for it. It was like a few years ago, but maybe there's like a thing that we can find and we can just post along with it, because that would be cool.
After you've watched it, and next time we look at one of these stars, you can sing it for us.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll get right on that. You don't want to hear me sing. Awesome. So I can see why you would like seeing something like that. So what's going on with the dips happening here?
Those are the eclipses, like the sharp deeps. Those are sharp dips.
Yeah.
Those are the eclipses. And then so you can imagine that sometimes you're looking at these and it gets a little confusing, because you have the pulsations, these regular wiggles, and then you have the sharp dips, and those are the eclipses. And this is what I spend a lot of my time doing. I try to disentangle those two and look at them each separately. And then that tells me a lot about the insides of stars.
How can you tell that it's a gamma door?
So you can tell that it's a gamma door. So I can tell that this is either a gamma doratus type star or a slowly pulsating B type star. And without further information, it's kind of hard to figure out which is which, because the only thing that differs between those two types of stars is their temperature, how massive and how bright they are. So gamma doratus type stars are a little smaller, little less bright, and the slowly pulsating B type stars are just larger. But they have these pulsations, they ring at similar frequencies. And then so just by looking at this, you see these kinds of wiggles, and you go, all right, it's one of these two types of stars.
So is it the frequency or the regularity at which they're oscillating? Is that how you can tell? The
frequency.
So is it about every couple of days?
Yeah. So you can also tell just by looking at this. So you see how they get larger and smaller, then larger than smaller again. Have you ever seen music videos where they put the waveform of the sound in there?
Yes.
So they look kind of similar, and that's because when you have two frequencies that are very close to one another, sometimes they act together to make it look larger, and sometimes they interfere to make it smaller, and that's what's happening. So from this, you can say, all right, one cycle takes something about a day, something like that. Label your axes.
Says
I see days.
Yeah, but you have in 5-day gradations. I want 1-day gradations.
You can interpolate between 5 and 10.
It's kind of a brief aside, something I wanted to ask you, but something that I have been really pleased about talking about Nora is like deconstructing these whole things about what makes up like an astronomer, like how, we spend a lot of time looking at data like through the screen as opposed to actually going through and looking at a telescope. Do you get to do like a lot of follow-ups to things that you really enjoy like this, actually taking time and looking at like telescope observations? Or is it not a lot of time doing that?
Well, so it comes and goes, but there are definitely times where it's fun just to sit down with some colleagues, some friends, and look through a bunch of light curves. So a colleague of mine and I did that, and we found some really interesting pulsating stars in eclipsing binaries. And we ended up writing a paper about it where we were just sitting through, clicking through light curves like this. And we found
Yeah.
one, and then it took us something like a month to sit down and write the paper.
Wow.
And then we had to go, and we wanted more data, so we wrote a proposal to go to have somebody down in Chile take observations for us, and they did. They gave it back to us. So it's a very international collaboration where we find something, we send out proposals, people take data for us, they send it back. We spend a lot of time looking at that again. It's quite a fun process, and I do really enjoy looking at these light curves.
Again, I'd love to see who has the most fun with their science, because I've been working with Nora, but I don't know, I'm starting to be convinced a little bit with some of these different star ones. There is a variety of interesting things that's happening that's way more than I would have ever expected. Nora's giving me the dagger eyes, so I'm not going to say anything more about that.
I'm just going to say that planets are great because, so I don't discriminate because the planets are going around stars. So really, I'm looking at both planets and stars, whereas Cole is really discriminating against the planets.
He's a specialist in the star as opposed to the generalist, where he's looking at both.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
I love it. Well, thank you. Special guest star Cole joining us today. Thank you so much for, as always, breaking these down into its little nuances. I love seeing the different ones, and you threw in the heartbeat star, which was super cool of you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Light curve of the week. We've had different ones on here. Let us know if you spot anything interesting and you want us to look into it. And as always, is there anything else that we want to mention before we close out today? Nora and Cole.
Well, I think it might be fun if some people start mentioning their favorite types of stars in the comments. And then
I love it.
What's
your favorite star?
Not just to rub anyone's face in it, but also so we can maybe look at more light curves of these kinds of stars.
Yeah, I love it. Drop a call. So, answer the call. What's your favorite star? We want to know. Should we do more of these in the coming weeks? All right, guys, thank you very much for joining us for a silly episode, and we will see you next week. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.